They knocked at this door. They knocked at his door. Excuse me. They knocked at his door. They knocked at his door, but he didn't answer. He listened as they knocked on all the doors, waking everyone up. Fulgo, he recognized them by his gait, was rushing toward the main door, but paused for just a moment as if intending to knock again. But then he kept running. Whispered voices, slow dragging of footsteps as if someone were carrying something heavy. Indistinct noises. The memory of his father's death stirred in his mind, then like now, it was the break of day, although on that occasion the door was already open, letting the gray hue of a forlorn and ashen sky filter in. A woman holding back her tears, leaning against the door. A mother whom he had forgotten so many times before, telling him, "They'd killed your father." In a broken, defeated voice barely held together by the thread of her wailing. He never liked reliving that memory since it brought on others as if he had torn a hole in a bag full of grain and was struggling to hold back the contents. The death of his father had been followed by so many other dreams, and with each one he saw the same vision of his father's face ripped open, one eye shattered, the other looking on vengefully. At that memory, and that memory came back again and then again until he had wiped it from his mind, but only when there was no one left to remind him of it. Lay him down here. No, not like that, with his head back that way. You, what are you waiting for? All in hushed voices. And him. He's asleep. Don't wake him. Don't make any noise. He just stood there, enormous, watching the men working to lay out a bundle wrapped in old burlap sacks and strapped together with lashing cord, as if wound in a shroud. Who is it? He asked. Fulgo Sedano approached him and said, "It's Miguel, Don Pedro." So his son. What'd they do to him? He yelled. He was expecting to hear they killed him, and he was already working to hold back the rage that was balling up in the pit of his stomach when he heard Fulgo Sedano respond gently. No one did anything to him. He found death all by himself. Petroleum lamps kept the night at bay. His horse killed him, someone added. They went to lay him out on his bed. They pushed the mattress to the floor, exposing the bare boards, and there they positioned the body that was now free of the straps they had used to carry it. They placed his hands on his chest and covered his face with a black cloth. He seems bigger now than he was, Fulgo Sedano muttered under his breath. Pedro Paramo stood there without showing emotion, as if he were someplace else. His thoughts chased around in his head, unable to come to any conclusion or understanding. Finally, he said, "I'm beginning to pay. Better to start early, to finish sooner." He felt no grief. And when he spoke up to thank those who had gathered in the patio, he found just enough strength and chose just the right words for his voice to push its way through the commotion of wailing women. Later that night, the only sound anyone could hear was that of Miguel Paramo's sorrel pawing at the ground. I think that's his horse, right? His sorrel. Tomorrow, he ordered Furgo Sedano, send someone to put that animal out of its misery. Sure thing, Don Pedro. Understood, the poor thing must be heartbroken. I agree, Furgo. And while you're at it, tell those women to stop making such a fuss. It's too much racket for a death that belongs to me. If it had been one of their own, I'm sure they wouldn't be bawling with so much enthusiasm. So I'm beginning to pay. So Pedro Paramo stood there without showing emotion, as if he were someplace else, his thoughts chased around in his head, unable to come to any conclusion or understanding. Finally, he said, "I'm beginning to pay. Better to start early, to finish sooner." So he thinks it's some sort of like karmic return of some sort. Yeah.